I think we'll begin. Welcome to our St. George City Council meeting today. We're just minus one council member, Jimmy Hughes. I don't know, has anyone heard from him? Is he going to make it, do we think, or no? He was out on the ranch, had a water line issue, whatever issue, and you can't have cattle without water, is what I understand. So he will probably not make it back. But otherwise, we've got the rest of the council here. Let us begin, if we could. We are pleased to have representing the St. George Area Interfaith Council, Rabbi Helene Einbinder. And you are the president this year, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for being here, representing also a congregation, see if I say it right, Beit Havarim. Okay. Thank you and welcome. Shalom.
Should I keep the mask on?
We're distanced, so I think you could remove it if you'd like. Yep.
Shalom. I'm Rabbi Helene Einbinder, Beit Havarim, Jewish Community of Greater Zion, and the president of the Interfaith Council of St. George. I would like to thank all of you on behalf of the Interfaith Council, for inviting all our members to offer prayers here. Before I offer my prayer, I would like to briefly speak of the trauma that people are having from the COVID-19 and the killing of the black man, George Floyd, by the 4 police officers. The Interfaith Council members continue to pray for all the people that died from COVID-19, their families, and all the ones who have fallen ill from the virus. The Interfaith Council and their members pray for all the government officials, police and fire personnel, medical staff, armed forces, all our faith leaders, supermarket people, and the many other individuals that bring our communities medicine, food, and other supplies to keep us healthy and safe. When the 4 despicable policemen brutally murdered a black man named George Floyd last week, it was horrific to watch. Those 4 evil policemen do not represent the integrity and the moral and ethical behavior of the rest of the police force. The police force are a necessary part of our society and communities because they are the ones who risk their lives in times of trouble to help us and keep us safe. We should be thanking all of them for their work they do on our behalf every day. My prayer is from Psalm 91, and the final prayer will be a closing prayer of comfort. The Most High dwells far off, the Mighty One abides in darkness. Yet I can say the Eternal is my safe retreat, my God in whom I trust. He will cover you with his pinions. Under his wings shall you find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and a buckler. You need not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, because you have made the Lord your refuge, the Most High your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, no plague shall come near your tent. Because they have set their heart on me, I will rescue them. I will protect them because they know my name. When they call on me, I will answer. I will be with them in time of trouble. I will deliver them and give them honor. I will satisfy them with long life and let them witness my deliverance. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu. Lord our God and God of ages past, grant that none may hate us, and let hatred for others never enter our hearts. Unite us in the reverence of your name. Keep us far from the things you hate, and draw us near to the things you love, and treat us with compassion for your name's sake. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Oh, thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Randall, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you again for that invocation, your thoughts, and Michelle, thanks for leading us in the pledge. Might just mention there have been several events, I think, as many of you know, and there will be several more over the next few days, including one this evening. There will be a demonstration at, I believe, right by George's on the corner of the Boulevard and Main Street, starting at 6:30. Anyone that would like to go with me and with members of our police department, we'd like to go there, and we're going to take them some, I think it's going to be Otter Pops, maybe some waters, but I know we're going to do that as soon as we finish here. We're hoping we can finish in a timely manner. If we can't, we'll have to send Lieutenant Hepler and others. Is it Lieutenant? Who I believe is going to be our one of ours, and I think the chief and others are going as well. Anyway, we'll send them if we can't make it, but I think we'll be able to make it maybe by 7. That's what we're hoping. So any of you are welcome if you'd like to go. Just to basically go and recognize that they're there, and if they have anything they'd like to say to us, fine. If not, then we'll see if they'd like to talk later. So there's that event tonight. I believe there will be another event Saturday morning that is a different group. I believe it's an All Lives Matter group, Second Amendment group that will be downtown, if I understand it correctly. Adam, is that still your understanding? Okay. And then there will be another event that night at 5:30. I believe that's starting, if it hasn't changed, near the Iceberg at 200 East and the Boulevard. And that will be a march that will be going down to Town Square. They plan to lay some flowers as kind of a memorial to George Floyd. And I think they will be doing some other things, maybe some discussion or some talks, some speaking. That is, as I said, Saturday night, 5:30. And there is also a planned event. Don't know. I think you all know. I think if I'm not dreaming, I sent it to you on Sunday at noon. That Max Akeen is hosting, organizing at noon. I told you already, at Town Square, and I believe that will be a march on, I can't remember, love, peace, harmony. He's welcoming all people. He's invited a lot of people and groups to that. So anyway, I will be there to that one as well, and I will be there to the Saturday night one, at least briefly. They've asked me if I might say something. So I just want you to know, to the public and also to the council, that I view these as opportunities to hopefully keep things peaceable and to offer a listening ear on the part of, I hope, all of us. We will in no way tolerate lawlessness or violence. And these groups are people that so far, I will tell you, have come to us mostly and asked us for their help to do these in a peaceful way. And so I'm assuming good intent, but we will also be prepared if there are problems. And so I just want you to know that. I hope we're on similar pages, and I hope the community feels on a similar page, and that we respect individuals' ability or rights to demonstrate peaceably. And we hope that we can help foster opportunities for discussion, for a listening ear, for changes where changes might be needed, and also to recognize the good where there's already good. And so I hope we're on a similar page. If not, I welcome everyone's comments at any time. So, Adam, am I missing anything in terms of events coming up? I might just also mention there are 4 events of different kinds being held at Dixie State University over the next week. And so again, most of those are for faculty, staff, but there's at least one that's for community. I don't have all the details, but those are available. If you want them, we can get them to you. But I just want you to know there are things going on that I think are properly motivated to try to help listen and learn and heal. And there will be more things in the future, I'm sure, that we'll be a part of. So we'll reach out to you more on that. and discuss those things further. So to begin, to move forward with our agenda, Adam, have there been any changes to the agenda? No? Okay. Then the first thing on the agenda is comments from the public. I haven't received any forms. Have you, Christina? This is the portion just for the information of those in attendance here, where these are unrelated to items on our agenda. It's just basically a vox populi. It's a voice of the people. They have an opportunity once a month on the first Thursday of each month to speak on any topic that's not on the agenda. And so I don't have any of those today. Oh, you've got something? Did you fill out a form?
I did not.
Is it something that's on the agenda?
It's not. I'm asking if I need to get on the agenda next meeting or this meeting.
Okay. So is it, why don't you just come forward, state your name for the record, and let's see. Tell us what you're up to or what you'd like to talk about.
Thank you. Real quick, my name is Ty Empey. Appreciate your time, council members. I'm also here with Aaron Navarro. So we run a softball league, and we have been working with the Parks and Recreation Department, the Leisure Services, and they told us that we could appear here in front of the council to inquire about having the fees waived for the field, because it's not like a for-profit thing. Long story short, it's a sober softball league. So I'm a former addict in long-term recovery, and in fact, in 12 days from now, I'll have 4 years clean and sober. I've actually seen you several times at Recovery Day when you've been out there, and so a few years ago, we started a sober softball league, and it's grown and grown and grown, and it's really become something that's very beneficial for people in recovery. And I would like to distinguish, like, these are people in recovery, people who are not actively using, and it's people who are trying to find things that are safe and fun to do with their time and whatnot. So anyways, we have played at Hurricane in the city of Hurricane and the city of Washington in the past, but they've only had 2 fields, and we have grown to the point where we kind of need a bigger complex. And so we already have everything scheduled with Little Valley, but it's a lot more pricey than where we've played in the past. $3,168 is what we've been quoted, and so I'm hoping to discuss that with you guys at some point. I don't know if we want to do that now or if I need to get on the agenda for next meeting.
I think it'd probably be best if we, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we probably ought to get that information to the council, which you could do either through our staff or, Christina can help you. And then I would say we ought to consider that at our next meeting.
Perfect.
And I'm sure that you're probably wanting to move this along.
Mm-hmm.
So
we start games next Saturday, but I already talked to them about it because they're the ones that told me to come here. And so they said if we need to, we're happy to, pay for the first week and if whatever.
Okay.
And when it comes right down to it, we're just, it's something that, there's quite a few people in the community that would benefit from it, and we'll talk more about that next meeting, I guess. But
we can't really take action, but
Yeah.
I think the council would want to help.
Yeah.
Do you agree, council?
Yeah.
So I would give you that as our disposition on the matter, and if you can just get the details to Christina. Look, she's giving you her email address or phone number or both. Then we will get it to the council, and then we could be ready to take action. Even though next week is a work meeting, I think we could do it next week.
So in 2 weeks or next week?
I think we could do it next week.
Mayor,
Adam?
can I ask him a question?
Yeah.
Ty, is Braden Brooks part of your group?
I love Braden. He
do
is,
too.
yes. So he,
Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to check because he was telling me about this, and I wanted to make sure it was the same thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So we actually have like a sanctioned softball tournament that's playing here this weekend. This is different than that. Like there's teams coming from all like East Coast, West Coast, coming here to play at the Canyon Complex. This is what I'm talking about is just for our community. So we have like treatment centers. We have Switch Point, crossover the new treatment center out there, Steps, Lionsgate, and then also people in the community that have just gotten together and made teams. And so, we're about 19 teams now, and even when we played in the past, when we played at Washington, we put together a game with law enforcement, and so I wanted to call it cops versus ex-robbers, but I didn't want to But anyways.
You have a sense of humor, too.
Yeah, because I myself have had my run-ins with the law in the past, and we did it to show that we're all on the same team. And in fact, we made a video about it, and it got like 30,000 views on Facebook. And we talked about how law enforcement plays an important role in the recovery process because they intervene for us when we can't intervene for ourselves. And so would love to do something like that again. Also service projects. I could spend a lot of time talking about this, so I don't want to take too much because I also want to get to the thing tonight and hand out Otter Pops. But yes, Braden, he's a good dude.
If you'll send that information to Christina.
Call you?
Adam,
Okay.
could we make next week's meeting a regular meeting for purposes of this decision? Okay. So next week at 4 o'clock, we'll deal with you, with you about the time because we've got
Okay.
a field trip going on to visit a couple
Okay.
of our city projects, sites, but we'll deal with you on the time and the place. It'll probably be here, but we'll get you.
So next week, because I thought it was 1st and 3rd.
It is, but we're going to help you out here.
Okay, so next week, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yep.
Working with what? Malia. Malia in the... Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah. And there's Emily too, I believe. Malia is the main one I've been talking to. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you being here. Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay, then we will move to the consent calendar. And before I have Adam make any comments he'd make, I just want to call your attention, council and the public, to item letter J on the consent calendar. This is considering the approval of daytime irrigation restrictions for those that irrigate with culinary water. We do this every year. I just wanted to call this out because this would get improved if you're so inclined with all of the other items on the consent calendar. But this is important for water conservation. See you, Rabbi. And we want to make sure that we're giving it the proper focus. All right, Scott. It's getting hot. Oh, Renee's here. Renee, you better come up here for a minute. If Renee's here, will you just come talk to us about this and make the kind of the request official? Even though this is on the consent calendar, I'd love to hear from you.
And I appreciate your letting me talk a little bit just as a reminder. So we're asking people to water between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. if they water with our drinking water. In addition to that, if they can get it done before 4, that really helps us with our peak day demand on the culinary system and will help your neighbors have good water pressure.
Remember that last year? Instead of everyone watering at 5, we need to spread it out throughout the overnight time.
So, and with our area being dry, and some people are concerned if they're not watering in the sunshine, they'll grow moss. But if you're watering an appropriate amount of water, and we're a nice dry climate, you should be just fine. So 2 things to keep in mind. You can call the Conservancy District. As of the 1st of June, they've started the free water check program again. So they will send out a trained intern, run your system, and give you an idea on how long you need to run your system in order to get a good deep watering and how frequently. And the other thing for people to make note of is that they'll see the golf courses or our cemeteries or our parks often watering during the day, but they are not watering with our drinking water. They have irrigation quality water, which includes our reuse water from the wastewater treatment plant that's been treated twice. And we just don't have enough production and storage capacity on the irrigation system to get all of those large users done in 12 hours, which is why we'd rather have them use irrigation quality water when it's available as opposed to putting them on the culinary system and having them do it in 12 hours.
Thank you for reminding us of that part of it too, because some people will say, why is the city watering during the day? The only way we'll be doing that is if it's with non-culinary or irrigation or reuse water.
Yes.
Because of again, our production and storage limitations.
Yes, thank you.
Any questions for Renee on this before we let her sit down? We appreciate your emphasis on this, and I think this is important. I think a lot of people, hopefully they're already doing this, but we can even adjust our clocks a little more. I think I set mine last year to 1 or 2 in the morning, just to, again, spread out the watering overnight.
Help us with that high demand when we all want to get up and get ready for work because
Right.
we can now.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Adam, anything else you'd comment regarding the consent calendar?
No, and just for the benefit of those in attendance who may not be familiar with this process, the main reason or purpose of the consent calendar is to allow us to expeditiously get through a number of these administrative items. There's really no legislative component to these, but they do require approval by the council. Staff have reviewed all of these. We're comfortable with it. Legal signed off, and so they're ready to go.
Do you have any questions, council, on any of these items that you'd like to ask now? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Danielle. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Adam?
So that brings us to item number 3, and we appreciate our guests tonight. We've asked representatives from Dixie Regional Medical Center to come and speak with us tonight on the COVID-19 situation. We'd love to hear your perspective, and we appreciate your willingness to join us tonight. And we recognize your expertise as well on this issue. And so, gentlemen, we'll turn the time over to you. And then, Mayor, perhaps you'd like to do some introductions as well.
Yes, just very briefly. Patrick Carroll. Dr. Patrick Carroll is the hospital's medical director and will kind of lead this this discussion and update. Also with him is Dr. Bryce Ferguson, who's the medical director of the intensive care unit at Dixie Regional. So we'll turn the time over to you. Also, we have Terry Draper, who's the communications director for our hospital, and a number of others. Dr. Carroll.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mayor Pike. Appreciate the opportunity to come and speak, and happy to answer any questions if people have questions as well, with your permission, Mayor Pike. I would like to start out by first offering a sincere thank you to Mayor Pike and to the City Council for the steps that you have already taken. That what the city has done as we've gone through the last several months. I've said before, and I'll probably say again, the last couple of months have probably been the longest year of my life. It's maybe some of you have felt that way as well. It's just has been a very prolonged process, and unfortunately no completion or complete end in sight. I also feel like I should probably thank Councilman Jimmy Hughes for demonstrating so effectively tonight social distancing. So that's really
Arizona.
really impressive. So I didn't anticipate that he'd be doing that, but kudos to that example. I want to speak a little bit about the trend that we've seen. You know, when COVID first hit, and we first heard about this back in December with the first few cases in China, I think it took us all by surprise. And then we heard about the cases on the cruise ship docked just outside of Tokyo, especially with some local connections to that. It hit even closer to home. The response was pretty swift, and locally, as that started to hit the United States, some would say that it was too aggressive. Some would say that it wasn't enough. And now, weeks and months later, we find ourselves continuously asking the question, what's the right thing to do? It's not my purpose to come and make a recommendation of what the right thing to do is, but rather to offer perspective of what we're seeing from a hospital standpoint, which is initially so it's not a surprise. I think everybody knows that we have seen COVID cases in the hospital, and we continue to have COVID cases in the hospital every day for weeks and weeks at this point. The first cases that we had were transferred in from outside facilities. We're a regional medical center. We serve not only Washington County, but we have many of our patients transferred in from Iron County, from northern Arizona, and from southeast Nevada as well. And so the initial cases that we saw, many of them were transferred from outside facilities that did not have an intensive care unit, and those patients needed intensive care. And so the initial several patients that we saw were in the ICU. They weren't on the general medical floor. And as the weeks and months have progressed, that's shifted, such that we still have patients that are transferred from outside facilities, and we have patients, but the majority of our patients now are local. There's your neighbors, my neighbors, and people that that we love and care about in our own community. What we've seen has been a trend of increasing number of cases. The trend has been in a couple of different ways. One, the cumulative number of cases has continued to increase for Washington County and for Southwest Utah. And over the last couple of weeks, we've seen that change from a linear trend to more of an exponential trend. That's certainly a concern. And what we've seen in the hospital has mirrored that, where the average patients that we've seen started out at just a few a day, and we saw that double, and we saw that double again. Over the last week or so, we've not seen an additional doubling. I hope that ends up continuing to be the case. I hope that remains stable. We're not at risk currently at the hospital of running out of beds. We're not at risk of running out of ventilators. We're prepared to surge. We're prepared to open up additional units, open up additional ICU beds should that be necessary. I do want to point out a couple of the things that the hospital community and medical care community has done and is continuing to do in preparation, past preparation and ongoing preparation for the COVID unit, for COVID cases. One of the first things we did is, as we started seeing cases on the medical floor, is we identified a floor where we could cohort those patients and keep them all together, so that we didn't put other patients at risk. And so we took a floor of the hospital that historically had been post-op surgical patients. At that point, we were not doing any elective surgical cases, and so that gave us the flexibility to move the patients onto that floor. A week ago, we had a situation where that unit started to fill up, and we thought we might have to surge into a separate COVID unit. Fortunately, that didn't happen. We were able to make a few changes where that didn't occur. We've also done a lot of cross-training. Generally, the nurses in the hospital are assigned to a unit, a surgical unit, the operating room, a medicine unit, intensive care unit. And we recognize that if this were to surge significantly, and if we ended up in a situation where the number of patients were overwhelming the number of beds that we had, we would need all hands on deck. We would need every nurse to be competent to take care of every type of patient, and specifically move nurses around. So we've done a lot of cross-training. I'm extremely proud of the work that the hospital administration, Mitch Cloward, has done, as well as the support of the Intermountain Healthcare System, in that we've not furloughed a single employee. We've done a lot of cross-training. We've done a lot of redeploying, and made sure that people are still maintaining salaries and maintaining pay. We've learned a lot of things through that. As we've seen this surge, it's given us an opportunity to sit back and talk and continue to plan. And part of what we've had conversations with Mayor Pike and other community leaders about is, too often what we're seeing in the media is we have to make a decision. We have to decide whether or not we're going to keep COVID under control, or whether we're going to support the economy. And we believe that's a false choice. That's not a choice that we have to make. That we have a lot of really smart people in the community, and we can do both of these things. But we have to be smart about it. We can't. We have to be very intentional about what we're doing. As we look at the recommendations to move from red to orange to yellow to green, and what that means, I think there's been a lot of misconception. I think there's been a lot of individuals that hear red or orange or yellow and see that that's moving in terms of loosening restrictions, but not really fully understanding what that means in terms of restrictions. And so I really appreciate what the City Council and what Mayor Pike has done to reinforce those things, to reinforce that as we do a good job with social distancing, as we do a good job with wearing masks in the community, that gives us our best chance of doing both, of supporting the economy, opening up the economy to a greater degree, while still limiting the spread of COVID. My hope is that that we see this happen, not because somebody's telling us that we have to, not because there's some legislation or some rule or some law, but rather because we have influence leaders that are demonstrating this, that are reinforcing it, and doing the right thing to both stop or slow the spread as well as support the economy. I think we're a phenomenal community. I think we can do both, but it won't be by accident. It will be by deliberate effort to do both of those things. And Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to ask Dr. Ferguson to come up and share maybe some firsthand experience of what he's seeing as an ICU physician.
Please. Yeah. We've got a pretty good process going here.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. I think this. Yeah, I think, Adam, is this our fourth meeting we've had that's both a in-person and Zoom? Is it fourth, I think? Third or fourth? So we're trying to do both. Yeah, for those that want to, there's still some on Zoom. I didn't mention that at the first, but for those that are here in person, we're trying to do the social distancing and, sanitizing when we can, so.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate the time that you're offering us tonight, and thank Dr. Carroll also for his leadership in the hospital. It's been wonderful to have a chance to work closely with him. I echo the sentiments that he has shared, and I've been a part of creating that surge plan. I want you to know that it's coming to the hospital is a safe place to be, and will continue to be a safe place to be. We want to make sure that continues, and with the recent trends, we are in a good position at this point. Hope we stay in that position. And I want to just bring up a couple of points and then maybe share a story or two from my opportunity to work with some of these COVID patients. Just something that the public may not be aware of, but many times we are comfortable with coming and seeing family members come to the hospital, require an ICU, a ventilator for a couple of days, recover, move on, and go to a rehab facility and go home. COVID is a very different process. The main difference is the time that it requires to take care of these patients. Whereas oftentimes we would expect someone to be on a ventilator for 2 to 5 days if they have pneumonia. With COVID, our average ventilator time is about 13 days, which means we've had many patients on ventilators for well over a month. And we get to know them well, we get to know their families, at least over the phone, very well. But this takes a long time. The reason I bring that up is if we have cases that are accumulating in the ICU, they don't leave, they just come. They don't leave at least for several weeks, and that's why we run into a bottleneck. And if you look at the daily case counts, we've seen southwestern Utah case counts, and we were in the 5 cases a day range for some time, then we moved up to 10 to 15. We're now about 20 cases a day. And if you do the math, if we have 25 cases per day, that means in 4 days we're going to get 100 cases. Well, we know that 8% of these patients will be hospitalized, and one of them will be on a ventilator in the ICU. So that means if we're at the current rate of 25 cases per day, then every 4 days we'll have 8 hospital admissions and 1 ventilated patient. And keep in mind that ventilated patient is going to stay there for up to a month. So if the next 4 days we accumulate another one, you can see that we're accumulating more than we're discharging, and that's where the problem comes in, is taking care of them over the long term. We can run out of ICU beds. As Dr. Carroll mentioned, we have been cross-training anesthesiologists to come in and work in the ICU. We've been cross-training internal medicine physicians to work with us on our ventilated patients, and it's been a really good opportunity to work together. And we're ready to surge, but we really don't want to. It would put us in a position where we don't have the people taking care of you that you want taking care of you. We'll be good, but not as good as we could be. Wanted to just share a couple of instances that I had that were really touching to me in taking care of some of these patients. I'll share, recently I had an opportunity, I was working a night shift and got called in about 1 o'clock in the morning because a patient's oxygen saturation was declining. Our oxygen level in our body here today, all of us are probably 95 to 100% saturated with oxygen. We like to keep it that way. And when we start dropping, we pummel oxygen in through the nose and try to keep it up. And we were giving this patient boatloads of oxygen, and despite that, the call said, we can't get the oxygen above 75. So really down there in the dumps. But this patient was still coherent, was speaking, and I went in to talk, and just with tears, this patient looked at me and said, I do not want that tube. And I said, listen, we don't put that tube in, you continue going down, you just die. We don't have another opportunity. You know, this is the life-saving. And this patient said, no, I don't want that tube. And I said, I respect your decision. This happened again the next night. And then later, several hours after that, it happened again. And finally, I said, listen, we can't keep doing this. We got to decide, are we going to do this or not? And this patient said, no, not going to do it. I respected that decision, and we moved on. I went and called a family member who, I just said, here's what your loved one has decided. I hope you're okay with that. You know, they're very sound mind. But these decisions are heartbreaking. And I'm happy to report that the next night when I came on shift, the patient was still there and actually had improved to some degree. And I was so grateful because this patient was just a very sweet person. Another individual had a loved one who was just a couple doors down, both of them afflicted with COVID. And it turned out that overnight, this dear friend down the hall passed away. And as I went in to console the one who was still fighting on the ventilator, they looked at me and they held their chest like this, and the nurse said, wait, do you have some chest pain or something we can do? But she mouthed the words, and I said, did you say heartbroken? And then with tears in her eyes, she just flooded open because she knew what had happened just a couple doors down a few hours earlier. You know, these are real stories, and we see them now with, you know, dozens and dozens of patients that we've been treating. Having those conversations is not easy, especially when they're so coherent and saying, you know, I don't want that too, but I know it's the only thing that might save me. And another time I spoke with this person, he said, I don't want that, but if it's going to save me, that'll be great. And then unfortunately I was there 3 weeks later when they passed away. And it was sad to think that I had one of the last conversations with them. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve these patients, and it's an honor to work with the leadership team that we have at the hospital, the fantastic nurses and respiratory therapists, and really appreciate the support that we can get from you as a city council. As Dr. Carroll said, we don't have to make a choice between closing anything down and keeping anything open, or we need to just work together, keep things safe, and we can do things in a safe fashion. We've been doing it at the hospital for months. We're not seeing transmission among hospital personnel because every one of us is washing hands about every 5 minutes, and we're wearing masks and goggles everywhere we go. It's a huge pain, and I really don't like it, but we're staying safe. And I know that we can do that in other areas of the community as well, and that would be my plea tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dr. Ferguson. Before you go, maybe a couple of things for me, and the council may have questions for you and Dr. Carroll as well, but I know you can't get into protected health information, and even numbers are difficult, but can you give us an idea of kind of the percentage of, you know, ICU patients or ICU beds that are currently occupied with COVID, and maybe a similar, I don't know what you can say, but similar on the floor?
But he does.
Okay, you're good. Whatever you guys have.
I'm going to let Dr. Carroll answer that question.
Okay, here you go.
We could probably both mask up, and I'll just not touch the podium at all here. So we've seen fluctuations. We have early on. It was probably within a week after we accepted our first COVID patient, and then continued to accept more COVID patients into the ICU. About a week after that first patient, I got a call from Bryce saying, I think it might be time to open up a surge ICU. And we thought, let's not do it tonight. Let's sit tight. The ICU isn't filled up with just COVID patients. The ICU, you know, normally in a non-COVID world, the ICU generally has, depending on the time of year, anywhere from mid-teens to low 20s number of patients. And so then if you take those patients and add the COVID patients on top of it, it doesn't give us a tremendous amount of wiggle room. Some of those patients are post-op patients, and so we've been very cautious about not doing surgeries, any elective surgeries that would require ICU stay, because those beds are such a scarce resource and potentially needed. So, we've seen anywhere from mid-teens up into the high 20s of ICU beds being filled over the last several weeks.
And you've got about 32.
32.
And then on your COVID floor that you're calling it, is that another 32-bed unit?
That unit is,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Council, questions that you might have? Just jump in.
I would just like to say that thank you to both of you for being here and helping us out. We've been getting a lot of updates via the mayor and from the hospital itself. I got the chance to sit with Terry and Mitch the other day, or a week or so ago, and it was really good to sit down and I know that they really care for our community, and you all do. And I appreciate that you're willing to really put out on to the citizens that this is a lot meaningful to them and you. So thank you very much to all of you.
Danielle, questions? Michelle?
I was just
Or comments?
gonna say the same thing as Brian. We appreciate you so much. I mean, I know how much work it is there. It's overwhelming to try to plan for something that's so uncertain and that's kind of a moving target, right? So you're reevaluating every day. We're reevaluating every day how we approach this as a city, and so we're just grateful for our working relationship, and especially the mayor has kept us really well informed, and we are just so grateful for you. Thank you.
Thanks. I might just mention, I think I've told the council this, but Dr. Ferguson and Terry joined the Mayor's Association meeting that meets twice a week, and you've been doing that now for several weeks. It has felt like the longest 3 months of our lives, but anyway, we appreciate those updates, and Dr. Blodgett is also on those calls, and so we're trying to be informed, and so that was really the reason for having them here, and I really do appreciate you coming. Greg, have you got a question or comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first and foremost, thanks for coming tonight. I like the stories that you're giving. You're putting a face to the, always get the numbers and things online, but having the personal stories and seeing that this really does affect people in a very heartfelt way, it's good to have that be shared. So thank you for doing that tonight. Another thing I wanted to share is just in the last week alone, I deal with a lot of people that are moving to the community. I've had 2 separate people that are moving here that are saying, I've been in some of the best hospitals in the world. They said United States, and they mentioned particular ones for particular reasons, and they've said, your hospital here, for the people that I've met with and the things that I've dealt with, have superseded those hospitals, and just said, there's no other place I want to be. So thank you for doing such an amazing job and being such an amazing institution.
Thank you. That's the goal. That's the goal. It's one patient at a time. We could have hundreds of patients in the hospital, but it's still one patient at a time. So thank you.
So before you go, I think we all know, and maybe it's just reminders, but I think we know what the key kind of preventive things are. But can you remind us, just hit the things that if you're telling your father, your mother, your daughter, your son, someone that might be at risk, what are the kind of key things you would tell them, Dr. Carroll?
Yeah, so
that are reasonable and
absolutely. So what I tell them, and I just spoke with my grandmother a couple of days ago. I have a couple of grandmothers that both have some heart conditions or breathing conditions or whatnot. And so the first thing that I tell them is that I care about them and I love them, and I'll see them some other time. But I've not seen them in a number of months. And it's not because I don't care about them, but it's because I do care about them. And so I think first is recognizing that the vulnerable population is just that, vulnerable, and they need to protect themselves. But it's not enough for them to protect themselves. It's important for us to protect them as well. Many of them have caregivers that are not in a vulnerable population, whether that's a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 50-year-old that's going in to help them out. So if that person is going out about the community and not social distancing and not wearing a mask and putting themselves at risk unknowingly, they run the risk of then bringing that back to somebody who is even more vulnerable than them. The other thing that I've shared with friends and family is that as I've looked at the data on testing and percent of people that are testing positive for COVID, what I've seen is that the most likely group to test positive is not 65 and older. The most likely group to test positive is 30 to 50 as a percentage of people being tested. That's not the most likely group to be in the hospital, but that is the most likely group that's testing positive. We've seen our percent testing, percent positive increase from about 1.7% that we were seeing early on to over the last week or two, 10 to 12% of people testing positive. That's not because there's more testing, that's the number of people that are testing positive. The percentage of everyone's being tested is positive. And so I share that with my friends and family to let them know kind of the scope of what it is that we're seeing. And then I let them know some very basic things. Hand washing. Wear a mask when you're in public. And social distance where possible. I don't look at this as an opportunity to now go out into public and do a lot of things in public, but rather be very cautious about, do we really need to do that? How do we, how do we social distance, and how do we still limit what we can? I recommend it to friends and family that if they're going to go out to a business, to a restaurant, to pick up the phone, to call them and ask them, what are you doing to protect me? What are you doing to protect yourselves? And I'm certainly in favor of especially supporting those businesses that are taking steps to keep our community safe, because that will help keep our economy open. That will prevent us from needing to take additional steps. And if even 10% of people that went into a business called in advance and asked those questions, I think that would send a strong message to a lot of business owners, and they would want to do those things to support the community and to support their business. So I think there's some specific things that we can do to really reinforce those safety measures. So Bryce, what did I miss?
I would just mention that yesterday I went into cheesecake culture. My daughter's birthday's this week, and we're going to get cheesecakes. We had to sample all the little mini ones first, and they were wearing masks there. And so I said at the end, when they gave me the thing to choose a tip, I said, you know what? Every time I see somebody wearing a mask, I give a good tip. And so I hope that progresses forward, and she keeps that mask on, and maybe somebody else will tip her. My brother came down from Kaysville over the weekend and called me and said, hey, can we hang out? And I said, my wife and I looked at each other like, yeah, because we've been pretty isolated. I figure I'm one of the more high-risk individuals in the community dealing with COVID patients on a daily basis. And I said, yeah, Tyler, come on down, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to sit in the backyard. We got the chairs set up. We're going to be far apart. I'm not going to give you a hug tonight. I love you, but I'm not going to give you a hug. And they came down. The kids stayed on that side. We stayed on this side, and we had a fantastic time together. And we were socially distanced and had a great time, and kept our distance from each other. And so I would.
We did the same. I did the same thing visiting my parents. We visited our parents for the first time last week. My wife and I and our kids, and we had the same conversation. And we did. So it's funny you said that. We sat in the backyard. We put our chairs apart. We had a great time. It felt comfortable. It was awkward to kind of plan that first, but it was still comfortable, and we were safe, but still maintained that relationship.
We can do both.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a good note to conclude on. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much for your support.
Yep. We'll do everything we can to try to be leaders in that and good examples. So. And by the way, at City Hall, our policy is we've reopened City Hall to the public, but in common areas, in other words, we get outside of our offices, we're wearing masks, and we're encouraging those that come here to wear masks, and especially if they can't remain at least 6 feet apart, and we're offering them masks if they don't have one. So, in fact, I think I saw Mark Mortensen stocking up for that out front so that we could do that. So, anyway, we're going to do the best we can too to give people, just like other businesses, to be open, to provide the service, but to try to do so safely. We never know who, just like some of the cases you've both mentioned, who might be at risk. There might be someone, maybe it's not that person, but the person they go home to. I think you said, Dr. Ferguson. And so someone at City Hall might get sick, and then unbeknownst to them, take it home to someone in their home that's at high risk. So anyway, we just don't know. So thank you for giving us the good examples and sharing us your experience over the last few months. Okay, Adam, should we go to the next item, number 4, I believe?
Number 4, and there's a certain amount of irony in this item. I'll tell you why in a minute. So this is an ordinance that would amend Title 5, Chapter 3, Section 7 of City Code, fireworks and other ignition source restrictions. Now, our fire chief, Robert Stoker, was going to be here to present this item, but he actually is in the field overseeing 2 separate fires. And that's been
caused
a challenge
by fireworks?
No.
Oh, good.
No, I don't believe so. But it's hot and it's dry, and this is something we do every year. We identify which areas of the city are restricted for fireworks. We're headed into that 4th of July season, Pioneer Day, when we tend to like to shoot off fireworks the most. And we're asking council to review this ordinance, review the restrictions. There is a little bit of cleanup in this item as well. We're wanting to make sure that local ordinance complies with state statute, so we've got a little bit of housekeeping language in there as well. I believe the rest is adequately covered in the background on your printed agenda. If there are any questions, we'll do our best to answer those in Chief Stoker's absence, but we would recommend that the council approve this.
Council, do you have any questions for Adam?
No, for Adam. This is something we do every year, and it's the map's usually quite easy to find on the city's website to see if your house is permitted to light off fireworks or not.
It's pretty easy to tell, isn't it?
Unfortunately, mine is, and I kind of wish it was in the restricted zone, because my neighbors are pyrotechs, I think. But yeah, so it's just common sense, and I think it's helped since we've been doing this to keep our firefighters not so busy on the 4th of July. If nobody has any questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Go for it.
Second.
Well, let me make the motion. Okay. I will make a motion to approve the ordinance amending Title 5, Chapter 3, Section 7 of the City Code, fireworks and other ignition source restrictions.
All right, we have a motion by Michelle and a second by Brian. Any discussion on the motion? Again, this is easily found on our city website, sgcity.org. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wait a minute. All in favor, starting with Danielle, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. That's an ordinance.
Yeah, and on the city website, you just type your address in there, and it'll pull right up.
Slick. I do it.
It's very slick.
I do it every year to see if mine changes, and it never does, Michelle.
I know, dang
You can
it.
come over to my house. We can't light them at my house.
Okay, but I'll come to yours.
So. All right. Number 5, Adam.
Okay, council, our next 3 items all relate to the budget, and they all require public hearings. There's no action required by the council, but we do want to hear from the public on these. And so for these next 3 items, we will have either, or Deanna Berklesich and Trevor Coombs to address each of them.
Found a new accessory in my pin that I can hold my mask there.
Oh, turn around and show the doctors. Yeah. See, unfortunately, they've almost always got to be wearing theirs, but
That's true.
okay.
No, I'm happy to be in front of you today. This is a routine item that we do each year, and it is a public hearing. We have sent out this public notice to each of our utility customers in their utility bills for the month of May. Hopefully they've had a chance to review that. In addition, we've put it on our city website and also on Facebook. We tried to get as much notification on these 3 items as well. But the first item I'm going to be talking about is regarding our unbilled utility services. Here at the city, we operate a number of business-like operations with regard to utilities, water, energy, sewer facilities, drainage are a few of those. The city owns and operates a number of facilities. The majority of those facilities are billed for utility services, but there are some city-owned facilities that aren't billed, that are we monitor and track through our utility meters, but those services such as our swimming pools, our parks, our right-of-ways, as well as the wells for electrical that pull out our water, those type of services we internally monitor and track the usage, but it's just embedded into our already existing utility rates. We found that it's more effective that way of just having them in our utilities. It's a service that is used by all citizens of St. George, and so we looked to do it that way. Just to kind of go over some of the numbers here, on the unbilled electric, the total that we have on that is $983,000. Majority of that is for the water fund, and like I said, the electric provides the power that the water uses to operate our wells, and rather than so the other aspects on the unbilled for water and irrigation, the total is $855,000. Majority of that is billed to or unbilled to the general fund for our parks, right-of-ways, swimming pools that are public use facilities in that regard. And then the other part of it is the unbilled sewer, which is $44,000, and once again, that's for those type of services for our restroom facilities and our parks and the all abilities parks, those type of facilities. So just want to present that before you. Those charges, like I said, or those uncharges are already in our utility rates. They've been that way for a number of years. Anyway, just if the council has any questions or the public has any questions, I'm here to answer any questions that may arise.
Thank you, Trevor. Council, do you have any questions for Trevor or Deanna or Adam? These notices go out to the public, as you indicated, just to make sure everyone. It can be confusing, but it's like whether you track it this way or that way, it's all the same. It's just this is a little bit easier, as Trevor said, for us to account for. Okay, if there are no questions, then I will open the public hearing on this item, number 5 on our agenda, for anyone who may be participating electronically or in person. If you would just make yourself known, either through the chat and the Zoom call, or raise your hand if you're in the room, if you have a comment on this item. And I'm not sure who's monitoring online. There's no one.
There's nobody that is in the chat room indicating that they want to comment.
Sounds like James. Thank you, James. Okay, if there are no comments on this, then I will close this public hearing. And then there's no action to be taken at this time on this. Okay, thank you. Deanna, welcome.
Thank you. Right. So I have a little clip.
Good job. You've got a hook
Yep,
on your
I got a hook.
lanyard. Okay.
Just hook it down. So the second public hearing that we'll be talking about is the enterprise fund transfers. And basically, in a nutshell, what that is there's a lot of employees in this department or in this city building here that provide support services to all of our departments, including our enterprise funds that are ran like businesses. So you have HR, you have legal, budgeting, finance, our customer service representatives, our utility billing,
clerks and so forth that provide a lot of their time and efforts go towards our enterprise funds. Those employees are in the general fund, and so essentially what we do is we turn around and invoice the enterprise funds for a portion of our time. And we call that enterprise fund transfers, and we budget for them every year. And the whole premise behind that is if we wouldn't provide those services out of our general fund, they would have to go out and purchase those services, whether it be HR, fleet, payroll, legal services, or so forth, and they would be paying for them external to the general fund. And so we do that to make sure that the general fund, whose money primarily comes from sales tax, property tax, and so forth, are not necessarily subsidizing the enterprise funds. And so we put this in a public notice. It's in the utility bill, and then we also do full accounting that it can be found on the city's website that really shows exactly how we've apportioned those individuals' times and those departments' times, and how we come up with those numbers. And usually it's about 5% of their revenues, which is a pretty reasonable amount. I'll just kind of throw some other numbers out there. So it turns out that it's about almost $6 million that we do transfer into the general fund for the administrative and overhead. We also have where the enterprise funds will sometimes pay for a specific employee or a specific piece of equipment, like a sweeper truck, that helps with our drainage program, our stormwater drainage program. And so we also disclose that, and that's another $4,112,000 that we have. And again, this information is out there on the city's website. It's in the utility bills that we sent to all our citizens in May, and we have our phone number so that they could contact us if they have any questions. So right now we're just advising you of that information, and just want to take any public comment or questions that our citizens may have regarding that practice.
Thank you, Deanna. As you can see, council, and for the public's information, this is very detailed. And this was part of the public notice, as I understand it. Is that correct? So it's very detailed. It shows by fund, the percentage and the amount that is transferred. And then on the second page, it shows on the capital projects, it shows again each specific project, which fund it's going to, and then which fund it's receiving the transfer from. And then the amount of the fund. So it's very specific, and this is all to coincide and comply with state law, and to be transparent in terms of how we're spending and allocating funds. First, council, do you have any questions before I open the public hearing? Thank you. Okay. Then I'll open the public hearing at this time for anyone in the room or on the Zoom call who has comments, would like to express at this time. James, anyone online?
Nobody is indicating a desire to make a comment online.
Did he say none? Okay.
That's correct, none.
Thank you. Any in the room? It's kind of cool to have a voice from above. James, good job. Yeah, that was Michelle last week. Okay, then I will close the public hearing and come back. I guess we don't need to take any action at this time. This is just, again, to comply, be transparent. We appreciate you helping us do that, Trevor and Deanna, on both of these. We'll go to item number 7 now, Adam, which is Deanna again.
Nice. All right, so item number 7 is a public hearing for our fiscal year 2021 budget. And state law only requires that we have one public hearing for our budget, and we have to have our budget adopted by June 30th of each year. We typically have 2 public hearings to give our citizens the opportunity to ask any questions and come and get any concerns that they have answered during that public hearing. So this is the first of the public hearings. You do not need to take any action tonight. It's just to hear any concerns. The budget has been presented on May 7th. We've had 2 subsequent work meetings with the mayor and city council on May 14th and May 21st. We will have a second public hearing to finally adopt the budget on June 18th. I can give you a few statistics if you'd like.
Yeah. Tell us the general fund for sure and the total budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
And anything else you want to.
Sure. And the reason why I'm pulling my phone out is because I just want you to know that you can actually put the full budget on your phone. Wow. And of course, I lost the page that I wanted to go to. So the total budget citywide is about $303 million. The general fund budget is $70,212,200 this year. It actually represents a decrease of about $50 million in our budget. Part of that is due to a couple of significant projects that we had in the current fiscal year 2020 year. One being the airport, which was an overlap of 2019 and 2020 that now came off the table for about $15 million in this current year. So that led to that $50 million reduction. And then we also pulled back on the City Hall expansion and police building expansion projects of about $15 million due to the COVID-19 and economic downturn. So that kind of leads to it. There's an additional $7 million that our general fund budget decreased by, and that is really 100% due to the COVID-19, where we've had to reduce our revenues quite a bit, mainly our sales tax revenues, other revenues such as our airport revenues, which is travel, tourism related, B&C road funds, which is gasoline related, where our citizens aren't traveling as much. There's just a pretty good ripple effect of what COVID has done to our revenue budget in the general fund. And so we've had to reduce our expenditures likewise to make sure that we balance our general fund budget. I'm kind of drawing a blank on some of the other statistics. Is there any information that Mayor and Council that you would like to know tonight?
Council, anything? I know we've gone over it, but anything you think we should highlight today?
I always think we should highlight how organized Dee is. She's amazing.
I have help.
She does. She and Chad do a great job, and then all the department heads and city manager. It's definitely a team effort, but she's the head of the team. So
It is. We have over 100 departments, divisions that all come together, and not all of them have, some of them have a couple of line items, but others have several. And so it averages out, and we have about 45 funds that those 100 divisions pull up into those 45 funds. So it's quite the task, but again, we all pull it together just fine. So.
I think the other thing that should be mentioned is just the amazing job that the city and you have been doing with this year, with the COVID, with the decreased budgets that we've had, and the amazing things that we still managed to make it balance and get everything done that needs to get done. Incredible job.
basically had to do the process twice.
Yeah.
We did. We did the process twice. We had all the budgets turned in by the 16th of March, and then we sent them out by the 21st of March and started over with a clean slate. And, you know, I am happy to say that we were able to accomplish that without letting go any of our full-time employees, which is pretty significant for us.
Appreciated too the contingency planning led by our city manager and by department heads, because we don't know how this is all going to go, and so we can adjust up or down, and hopefully it can be for the better as we go forward in our economy, as both of our doctors here today pointed out. As we ramp back up the economy, we hope to see that get better. I was just thinking, as you mentioned travel, what's the last time anyone flew on an airplane? It was March 11th for me.
March 11th.
Any of you others flown since March 11th? We were on a trip to Washington, D.C. to the National League of Cities conference, and we got home to find out that someone on the Utah Jazz had just tested positive for COVID-19. That was when it all started kind of for us. Although we were nervous in D.C. It was kind of the thing back there, and we're hand sanitizer everywhere, doctors, and then we find out that a certain congressman whose office we'd been in got the virus, and we're like, uh-oh. Anyway, we've all been COVID-free as far as we know, and we're grateful, but it has changed tourism and our economy, and a lot of businesses, of course. A lot of people have been affected by this, so we're grateful, hopefully, for every step we can take to re-engage our economy. Okay, I will open the public hearing for any online or in person who would like to express comments on the budget, the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget. Anybody online, James?
Nobody online has indicated that they would like to speak, so no.
Thank you, sir. Voice from above. Anybody here in the room? I don't see anybody. We're only spending $300 million, so, you know. We'll do one additional, I'll close this public hearing for tonight. We'll do an additional public hearing on the third Thursday, which is, I believe, the 18th of June, and then we would ask the council to approve the fiscal year budget that would start July 1st. Deanna, thank you. Appreciate you. Adam?
Well, we've reached the magical portion of our agenda for land use. And Council, I'm going to start with something that's a bit of a downer for us. In fact, it's some sad news on our part, but for the individual involved, probably a really happy time. One of our great staff members has announced his retirement, and this is actually Ray's last council meeting with us tonight. And we're bummed. We hate to lose him, but we wish him well in retirement, and we're really thankful for everything you've done for us over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. We appreciate all you've done. Come back. Don't be a stranger. So let's see. We got Wes leading us in this one? Yeah. Okay. We are on number 8, yes.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Carroll, Dr. Ferguson, thank you so much. Yep.
Okay, so item 8 is a request for a public hearing in consideration of amended final subdivision plat called Shaw Subdivision at Moreland Park, and basically they're merging Lot 14, which was right here of Phase 1 of Moreland, and Lot 17 of Phase 2. They're merging them together into one lot and then vacating the public utility and drainage easement that extended between the two lots. So basically it's to merge the two lots and vacate that public utility easement and drainage easement.
Questions, council? No?
Oh, I'll ask one. Is this remaining a building lot?
Yeah, so it'll
This
just
is
be,
right-
it'll just
okay.
be one
Just one
large
larger.
building lot, yep.
Okay, if there are no questions, then I'll open the public hearing for anyone that may have come to ask questions or offer input on this item number 8 on our agenda today. On the Zoom call, James?
There is nobody in the Zoom call.
Thank you. And in the room physically here today? No? Then I will close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your discussion or for a motion if you're so inclined.
I'll make a motion to amend the final subdivision plat for Shaw subdivision at Moreland Park by merging Lot 14, Moreland Park Phase 1, and Lot 17, Moreland Park Phase 2 into one lot, and to vacate the public utilities and drainage easement between the lots.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Michelle and seconded by, was that Greg? Okay, Greg. It was a close second. I know you got to be quick up here, don't you? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Number 9. Glad we get to hear from you, Ray. I knew you wouldn't be here just for the heck of it, but we're glad you're here.
I might surprise you sometime.
Yeah, all right. Come.
I'm going to lose lose the mask so I can talk.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Adam, for your comments. Number 9 is consider approval of an ordinance changing the zoning from A1, which is agricultural, to RE 12.5, residential estate, 12,500 square feet, minimum lot size on about 21 acres, and this is at approximately 2400 South Crimson Cliffs Way. Oh, I'm sorry, how do I get, I assume the desktop I'd be able to use it.
If you can't, we've got it. Don't.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I'll just go through it.
Yeah.
If you click on share desktop. Yes, right up.
There we go.
The desktop here?
Yeah, this is the, what you're looking at is the desktop here, so, did you preload?
Yes, here we are.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yep, that's very
Thank you,
helpful.
Jeff.
Thank you. Okay, he saved me. So here is the site. There's 2 properties. They're right by each other. I'm sure you've seen that in your packet. And right now, all of this dark green area is A1. And their request is to go to RE 12.5 like this. So there's not much to say in this report, but I'll just touch on it. The owner is Desert Investments Group. Bob Hermanson is a representative, and I think he'll probably want to weigh in probably by Zoom tonight. On the first page of the staff report at the bottom, I listed, I won't read it all, the agricultural uses and how it relates to agricultural, and then I also put on the bottom the RE uses and how it relates. So looking a little bit closer, outlined in kind of a turquoise color, is the one piece of property, and then down here you can see the 2 properties. And this is the new high school. Mayor, what's the name of that new high school that's in Washington?
It's Crimson Cliffs.
Crimson Cliffs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that falls right under with the street, that's 2400 South, and I think it's called Crimson Cliffs Way now. And shown in kind of purplish color, you can see how the 2 properties are, and then this again shows them superimposed. So basically the request is to go to the RE 12.5. Staff didn't really support that. We recommended RE 37.5, the larger lots, more animal uses, and there was quite a bit of discussion at the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission recommends approval, but they recommended RE 20. So the applicant wanted RE 12.5. Planning
So
Commission.
essentially half-acre lots.
Yeah. Because you'd have 43,560 in an acre, so
Mhm.
essentially that's right. That is really about it. I'll just read the last paragraph of the staff report. Staff does not support the RE 12.5, would support a change to RE 37.5, which would blend in with the surrounding A1 zones due to the fact that it permits many agricultural and animal uses found in A1 zone. It would also serve as a buffer between the new high school and the agricultural uses to the south. So that concludes staff's comments.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions for Ray, first of all, council?
I just want to know what Ray's going to do in retirement.
I've had that question a lot. I have a lot of different ideas. We'd be traveling right away, but with the pandemic and the virus, that's all on hold. The very cruise ship that went to Japan is the one my wife and I went on in 2018.
Really?
So we're not, and we had a wonderful time, but we're not looking forward to doing that. Relatives to visit, oldest son to visit back in Illinois. I want to continue to teach here that I've been doing for the last 10 years.
What do you teach, Ray?
I've been teaching martial arts.
Yeah. Does everyone know that?
I did. I mean, I knew he participated,
Yeah.
but I didn't know he was a teacher.
And I enjoy doing that. I like the exercise, and I like helping out in the community. And I've got some hobbies I want to do. I've discovered the wife has a long list of things to do, redoing the bathrooms, and the daughter and her started debating who was going to come help her first, so it made me a little nervous.
Sounds like it's not going to be relaxing.
I think I'll be busy, and I actually want to take some classes at the college, but I'll have to see how that plays out.
Well, we appreciate you. How long have you lived here, Ray? in St.
Moved
George.
here October 2003.
Yeah.
So it's home. We love the area. We had been coming since the 70s with our family. We'd go to Zion and vacation, and we'd come and stay in St. George. And it was years later that I saw the opening for the position here and was lucky enough to get it. So.
Well, we're really glad you did. We appreciate your service. So if there are no questions for Ray, I'd give the applicant's representative an opportunity to speak. Bob, I believe you said.
Bob
Hermanson.
Hermanson. I haven't noticed him here, but I think he'll probably
If
be
he's
on
on,
Zoom.
if he's on Zoom,
Zoom, yeah.
can we? If he's not unmuted, can we unmute him?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you. I'm still uncertain of whether or not I'm on the mic or not, so I appreciate your time. And before we roll into that, just as a consultant, I just want to, I've known Ray a long time, and I remember when he came in 2003, and honestly, like, the guy's done a really good job. Like, I've had, I don't know how many projects, right, that Ray's represented for me personally, going through as a consultant. He's always done a great job. And so I just saying that publicly that he's done a great job. And honestly, like, I'm sad to see him go. And so, but wishing the best, Ray. I wish you the best and happy retirement.
Thank you, Bob.
And so I appreciate your time on this project. Ray's done a good job going through the project and explaining what's gone on in the application that we've submitted. And so just wanted to just illustrate why we were thinking that 12.5 was a good fit instead of the larger zoning criteria. Is that I know it is a different deal because we are on the city boundary, but just adjacent to us to this project to the east. That project, that parcel from there all the way over to Stuckey Farms, that entire block area, we just went through a general plan amendment for that entire site, and the adjacent property that touches this boundary is actually was approved for R110 lots. And so the general plan was changed to low density, which allows for R110 lots, which is what we agreed to do. It was with the general plan, and we are submitting our zone change for next week, but that's the intent with city council, and that's what it is. And so in anticipation for that, it was a little bit ahead of this project, but the thought process as well, if that was R110 lots, then the natural transition is the next zoning up, which would be the 12.5s. And that's how we landed on that transitional and that planning item was east are the 10s. Here we have the 12.5s. And then it's just off the screen with and I'm watching Zoom and I'm assuming you can see what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the zoning map is that this area is A1, which Washington side was as well. It was all A1. And now it's low density. Low density and then medium density and then high density is actually transitions all the way up to Washington Fields Road. And so that's the whole thing that's there, and a large commercial center there as well. But just to the south of where the zoning map is on your screen, down and to the left or to the southwest, just off the screen, you have R110s is on the screen, and then right below that, you immediately, those yellow parcels are R18. And so the thought process is we're just merging from all the way to Washington Fields Road, from a medium high density to medium density to low density in Washington City, and then low density here at which is what you are, but the zoning being 12.5 as we transition and continue from there, and then all the way down. You would then go in my thought process. You would go 12.5s. You could potentially go up again as you're working to the southwest, and then merge into the 8s that are the yellow ones at the bottom of the screen. And so I just wanted to describe why and how and what the thought process was and what the method to the madness, if you will, from the planning side of this is why we were asking for the 12.5s. And so I'm happy to discuss that with you and talk through that with you, but that was our reasoning.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
So, Bob, it's Michelle. You can probably see me.
Yep. Yes, we can. Yep.
It's weird. So, before I was even elected to the council, this saving some agriculture zones out in the Little Valley area was talked about ad nauseum, and that was before I was even elected to the council. And being on the council now for 6 years, it's still brought up that we're losing our ag space out there, and we want to maintain it. And I am absolutely not in favor of changing this to 12.5 because it is A1 right now. I'm inclined to go with what the staff has recommended. I get it, borders Washington. We can't do what Washington, I have nothing to do with what Washington's done. I think some of their changes over there have been boneheaded out in the fields as well. And there's somebody in Washington in our audience today, and I think she would agree. But so that's my thought process. I'm just one council member, but I'm telling you, I don't see 12.5 subdivision going in right there.
It is part of the area that we kind of said we were going to leave ag.
That's one area that we said we were going to try and protect.
Yeah.
We can keep saying it, and if we don't do it, then we're just spitting in the wind, basically.
Yeah, I agree with Michelle. And if we keep whittling away, then we might as well just not say that we're going to preserve a space of ag. So, yeah.
Greg?
Yeah, well, I'm just to add to what Michelle said. So I'm new on the council, and just since I've been on here, the conversations of what are we going to do with the fields and how are we going to preserve those things, and has been a big discussion just over the last few months. And I also agree with the sentiment that we should do things to preserve what we have out there. And so we have to start at some point.
As do I.
Okay. I showed, Christina texted me that there was someone on the Zoom who would like to speak to this. This is not a public hearing. However, I would, just because, again, it's a big deal, I think I'd entertain a comment by Zoom. I believe it was, I don't know if this is the correct pronunciation, Keena Fry?
Close. It's Kenna Fry, but thank you. I won't take long. I appreciate the opportunity to just say something. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, just wanting to check that you wanted to talk about this issue, and did you also want to talk about 10? Item
Yes.
10? Okay.
I have more to say about 10, but as I looked at the agenda and saw that this was going to be on, it's just a good example of, I echo everything that the council members have said in preserving ag in our area. And when my husband and I were looking for a house and property, there's just not enough land that allows us to do things with animals anymore. And if it gets changed away from ag, it's just another loss. And so I just wanted to put in my voice that I would support keeping agriculture land as much as possible. So
Thank you. And we'll give you a chance to comment on number 10 as well.
Thank you.
You bet. Kenna, did I say it right that time? Mm-hmm. Kenna
Yes,
Fry.
that's correct.
Thank you. All right, council, do you have any more discussion you want to have, or do you have any more questions, either for Bob, the applicant's representative, or Ray? Or if you're ready to make a motion, you're free to do that, of course, too.
I'll make a motion.
Mayor, I don't know if I.
Oh. You want to talk
I'm sorry.
about Bob?
Is this Bob again?
It is, and I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm just trying to raise my hand in the back like I would normally do or something.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure how to do that.
Go ahead, Bob.
I just wanted to just get a couple of clarification items. I think I understood you correctly, but there's two items in the report. There was staff's recommendation at 37.5, and then planning commission's recommendations at RE20. That was the first clarification with the comments that the council members have made right now. I guess that's my first question is, are you recommending or thinking that the planning commission's recommendation is what you're leaning towards? Am I understanding that right or not?
I mean, if I make the motion, I'm going to make the motion, Bob, for 37.5, for RE 37.5, just because the ability to have the animals that people are really wanting, the ability to, have that ag space actually function as an ag space will work so much better in a residential estate zone.
That's larger.
Okay.
That's larger, yeah.
Okay, and then the second item or second question on that would be, with that said, and I appreciate the explanation because I wasn't sure, and I'm sorry, you probably said it, but I wasn't sure what you were leaning towards there. The second item would just be, or discussion would be, a transitional portion. There's two parcels here. Both are, one's adjoining the city boundary, and then we have the longer, skinnier one that's running to the west. Is there any transitional area there where there could be essentially a split zone? One parcel could be one zone, and then it could go up to the larger zone on the skinnier one, or what? Or is it a global con? I'm trying to fill it out just to see where all this ends up and what the thoughts are, and so that I fully understand your comments, if that makes sense.
I'm pretty sure we're all at the whole thing would be 37.5, Bob.
Yeah, I think really the issue is, and maybe the applicant didn't understand this, but really this whole area was really designated, if not officially, unofficially, perhaps by the council, as this is the last remaining large, area anyway for ag, and also one of the reasons was there's been more of a, I'm going to call it a history of water in that area, more an issue of farming it already in some of this area. It was greener, if you will, so it was one of the reasons we kind of deemed it kind of worthy of protecting. So that's why it's kind of a, well, there's other ways we can do ag, and Danielle pointed that out a few weeks ago, but not like this. We don't have too many opportunities to have essentially 1 acre lots, either ag or RE. In this case, RE is what staff recommended. So,
Bob, are you thinking that your client would prefer to just keep it at A1? If it's
no,
okay.
No, not for sure, not A1. And we're just trying to fish it out. The 37.5. It's all we're trying to figure it out now because it's kind of changed with the high school, and then with the adjoining properties on the east, and then the transition coming from the bottom. I understand what you're telling me now, and I think I understand that full picture. We weren't thinking that it was going to be 37.5 because just like the map shows on there, there's only one very small parcel on this that's actually been developed. Nothing else has been developed. It was 37.5, and then I was just looking at the overall plan with the general plan, where as it being low density, and that's how I arrived at what the whole plan that we went over a moment ago, and so. So yeah, that doesn't fit with anything that we were envisioning from there, because we just looking at this information, we didn't get there, right? That wasn't an understanding. So that's why I'm stepping back for a second, trying to figure out what to go through, because it's just different.
It's just everything else around it. As we look at our document, everything else is A1, A20, A20, A1, and RE 37.5. Other than around the high school there. And so again, if we don't do it, I mean, I see that adjacent to some of those parcels, there's RE 12.5 and R110, but again, we have to stop and start somewhere. So I think that's what the council's talked about in the past, and it's kind of, it's why I guess we're talking this way now.
Bob, would you prefer like we table this so that you and your client can talk, or do you want us to just make a motion? What do you want?
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and that's what I'm weighing out as well. And I think that just wasn't fully prepared, and normally I feel like I'm relatively or very prepared. And with this transition, I think that would be the best option for us is to table if that's okay on your guys' end, and let us discuss it and kind of come back and relook at it, because we had not looked at it from that angle, and just, you know what I mean, so we can come back to you with the discussion item. That would be preferable on our end.
Bob, how long would you like us to table this for if the council's so inclined? You want 2 weeks? Do you want 4 weeks? Time, date certain?
If we could do, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think if we just did, if we skipped one meeting and came back, so it would be 4 weeks.
Okay, so the
July
first
2nd.
meeting of July, yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Are you guys meeting with it being? Let me pull that calendar up here real quick. So, I'm assuming you guys are meeting on that, with the 4th being on Saturday.
2nd of July. Yeah, we're planning to meet that day.
Okay, that would be great. I appreciate the thoughts and getting me up to speed on your thoughts on this area with just the clarity there. I understand that better, and so that would be great if we could table and move to July 2nd.
And stress to your client that I don't think many of us are willing to budge. So just so you guys can go back and talk. But anyway, I will make a motion to table this item till July 2nd.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with second by Brian to table this item number 9 on our agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Bob.
Mayor, I
Thank
know
you. I
I'll be
appreciate your
gone on
time.
July 2nd. Are we going to
We
take
might have a couple
do we,
gone.
Okay. I didn't know.
Okay, so we may have to check on that. If that changes, Bob, we will let you know. It's possible we may not have a quorum that day, so I don't know when Jimmy goes to the ranch.
Sure. And if it gets bumped, it is what it is, and I fully understand. That's why I was mentioning it with the holiday there. So just let me know, and we're in great shape. I really appreciate your time tonight, and we'll move forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, item 10, as soon as we're sanitized. Thank you, Jeff. Pretty good for an IT guy, don't you think? What'd you say wasn't your long suit? Cleaning. Oh, I don't know. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you. All right. So we are sharing the screen. There we go. All right. Let's see. Item number 10 is to consider approval of an ordinance which would amend various sections of Title 10, which is zoning regulations. You may recall, I'm sure most of you do, going through some revisions at the end of last year in October, which was a comprehensive rewrite of Title 10. And this is a chance to just go through some of the things that might have been missed, maybe things that didn't work, maybe things that need to be added to the code. And so that's what this is. This is, again, not as comprehensive as that one was last year, but hopefully it'll clean up a few things. With that, I don't intend to go over every single thing in the ordinance, but I did want to hit a couple of things, and then I'm certainly happy to talk about anything that you would like to talk about after that. First thing I'd like to go over is this Chapter 5 and Chapter 7, but we'll look at Chapter 5 first. This is the agricultural zones. There's been a request to add the allowance of having people, excuse me, allowing people to have pigs in their home. So
No pigs, no pigs. I've been, they're hogs,
Hogs.
sir.
Okay.
I was corrected by Councilman Hughes, okay, when I called them pigs.
Gotcha. We
Now
can-
you learned with me,
We can call them whatever you want.
Terminology matters, apparently, huh?
I guess.
And that can be changed easily enough. But they would be allowed as part of requirements of a youth club. That's what the proposal is, maximum of 1. So we'd like to get your feedback on the number of pigs, but we'd also like to get your feedback on the areas that we're allowing them. So in this particular case, the A1, A5, A10, and A20 zones. We're also proposing the same standard in the RE 37.5. So we'd like to get your feedback on that and see if you have any issues with the zones and the number and
So
the general concept.
The number currently for an A1 is 2, right?
And it doesn't, not for this specifically, so not in connection with a youth club or something like that.
0, even an A1? Is that right? You hate bacon?
I think it does exclude
Yeah.
0 on A1.
hogs and swine.
You said 0 back there.
That means everybody in my neighborhood has been out of compliance.
It do-
Really? Okay.
What about pigs? 0?
So yeah, this would be a new thing. It would introducing a new animal to the.
So let me ask,
So
does
everyone in
anybody,
Little Valley who's been raising hogs all these years for livestock has been out of compliance.
Yes.
Well, okay.
don't be
Now we
telling
know.
on them.
Now we know. Kenna brought this issue to our attention, obviously, and I know she's on Zoom. And we're all like, I never did 4-H. My best friend did 4-H. She did lambs. We had to walk the lambs all the time. And I think it's hard to set a number because if you have 3 kids that want to raise hogs for a 4-H show and you're in the right ag zone, I hate to say, no, you can only have 1 hog.
Well, I'll give you a reason why we should limit it. I want us to have it, but I have raised
Do you have
pigs.
a number, though?
I think
Okay.
2.
All right.
Because the truth is you get too many of them and they do start to get aggressive with each other. I mean, there's some issues that are involved with hogs in large numbers. You know, the larger the number gets, they can become a little aggressive with each other.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't want
Okay.
to see it. They have fangs. Have you ever seen their big fangs
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
can dig into each other with? But that's beside the point. Anyway, I think that 2 is a fair number. I think that above that, for that size of lot, that might be a little much. Let's discuss it.
I
but
guess my question would be, if you have a family of 3 kids that are in 4-H and they want to do that, I would think you would have to have, you could do the same number of kids that are actually in the 4-H. You
But
see
it
what I'm saying?
may depend on the lot size, too, that, you know.
that's when you talk your
acres,
kids into raising lambs.
That's when you go to lambs.
When you get
or-
3 kids, you go to lambs. Actually, that's what we did. We changed, and a lot of the kids change what animals they're raising just because of space, because you actually do have to have a little more space. It's a little bit more challenging to keep the hogs clean than it is, you could have 4 or 5 lambs in the same space that you could have 2 hogs and have them, coexist more peaceably and not be, as challenging to clean up. So I think to weigh, we've not allowed any, apparently. I thought we allowed 1. We've not allowed any. To go to allowing them, I feel like there needs to be, a balance also with, we don't want to overdo it. We want these kids to be able to participate in 4-H. Absolutely. 4-H is amazing. And shout out to 4-H. My kids, I'm a city kid. I was raised in the city. I didn't raise animals. My kids have all had the opportunity to live in St. George and Little Valley to raise animals for 4-H, and that program is awesome. And I want any kid in our city who desires to be part of that to be able to find a way to be part of it. But I also think we have to balance, we don't want an RE 37.5 filling up with a bunch of hogs. It would be detrimental, I would say, to the health and well-being of the neighborhood, for there to be too many. So we got to balance it out.
Good
Makes
feedback.
sense.
I'm looking at Greg.
Greg, how many hogs have you raised?
I've fed hogs before as a kid, but I've never personally raised one, so I don't know if I have a lot of input on this to contribute.
It's all new to me. I did chickens and dogs, that's it. So.
I got kids.
Yeah. Oh, I did do kids too, but.
So what I'm hearing is 2, and we're changing them to hogs.
Let's hear from Kenna just for a minute if we could. Kenna, are you still on the Zoom?
I am. Thank you. Yeah, again, I just appreciate the support and the feedback that the council has given, and again, the opportunity to speak. So, as I said before, my husband and I were looking to move and to buy property to move our hogs that were on ag land out in Washington, actually, that we were having to drive an hour a day to get to. So we wanted to have something with all of what we were doing. But one of the things that happens is that there's just not that availability. So what I wanted to say is, you guys were talking about a number. I think I'm 100% in agreement that I don't want to overrun any kind of property with the hogs. I think my husband and I may be a little anal with how we take care of them. And I wish I could share a screen of how our hogs live. I think they live in like the Taj Mahal, apparently. We have cement pens that we put sawdust down, and they're cleaned twice a day. They also are separated. They're only together for the first couple of months when it's cold. And then we separate them next to each other to minimize any concerns with, fighting over food. And like I've mentioned, when you're raising them for a 4-H or FFA show, you're very specific on how much you're feeding them, and we're hand feeding them and walking them. And I don't want them to fight over food. So we're pretty particular about how we raise them. I understand that not everybody's like us too. So I'm reasonable here for sure. I think one of my concerns would be in a number like a couple of you have mentioned, that I have 2 kids. And when you do, I don't know anything about lambs or cattle. I mean, that would be a whole nother world to us. We know hogs, and an adjustment to another animal would be difficult. Although, I know kids change their minds too. Anyway, what happens is, like, sometimes you have a hog and it gets sick and dies. And if you don't have an alternate, you're out of the show for the year. Like, that's just it. So we've always done an alternate for our kids. So each child has 2. And so I know that can be out of control. And my thought is if we can maybe make a provision around the size of the lot, being considered in how many can be on there, that might be a good option. And then the other thing that I just wanted to bring to attention in our personal situation, so we're actually, our house is on RE 37.5, but our hogs would be on open space actually. And that I'm just seeing that that's not actually addressed in this. And open space is similar to the ag land and the RE 35 where hogs are excluded. So I would just also ask that the open space be considered with an adjustment allowing hogs as well. What else was I going to say? I think I covered everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenna. So this wasn't set to address open space?
No, not the hogs particularly.
Can we massage that so it does?
Yeah.
Yeah, because our house, I don't know if you guys know where we are, and maybe that's, I don't know if it's an issue, but we're not in Little Valley. We looked for houses in Little Valley. We looked at houses actually exactly where the zoning of number 9 was and couldn't find anything. So we ended up in Bloomington, actually, and we run up against the river. So our house is on RE 37.5, but all of our property in the back, which is actually almost three acres, just alone that, the open space, runs up against the river. So that's where we have all of our animals, our horses and whatnot.
Okay.
So in the open space, it replicates the ag. And so however many animals are allowed in agriculture, it's also allowed in open space. So we could just duplicate that language and put it into open space.
Okay.
And if they wanted to do like a number of animals per
acre, could we do,
size,
John?
you could do, two per acre.
2 per acre, and but we'd also round down into 37.5 for that.
Two per 37.5.
Yeah.
And then that way
Okay.
you just cover it.
I actually think that's a really fair number, and I think that's a safe number. I think it's a manageable number, and obviously we'll also say that it's for 4-H. It's not long-term. It's not all year, right? That's part of the provision.
Yeah, so we'll just take that, whatever language that you guys agree on, we can just move that right into open space.
Okay.
Okay.
Because everybody we've heard from, it's been for the purpose of the 4-H animals, and they don't have them year round.
And I will say, I mean, there are really strict rules for 4-H, how the kids are supposed to do it correctly. So if it's done correctly, as Kenneth says, these hogs live in the lap of luxury. They really do. I mean, and as a parent, I'll tell you what, those kids think they're making a lot of money, but you just lose money because you have to make a very special living environment for these animals. But it's an awesome lesson, so.
She said a Taj Mahal. I think it's a Hog Mahal.
Hog Mahal.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great.
So noted, Dan?
What's that?
So noted?
Yes, so
Okay.
noted.
All right.
Any other issues you want to talk about in relation to the hogs, zones, that kind of thing?
They were the only animals we were discriminating against, right? Kind of.
Brian and I thought this was about a totally different thing.
I thought it was Harley.
Yeah.
He was talking about.
We were confused. How many do you have? I have one.
One right now.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay.
Tough crowd.
So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, really the last thing, and then again we can open it up if you'd like, is discussion about the height of buildings when we approve, especially in PDs. When you approve a PD, we like to allow you to have some discretion on the height of a building. So what this does is it sets some standards or some standards, some findings that you would be able to make in order to increase the height in a PD. So those standards or findings would be the proposed setbacks provide an appropriate buffer to neighboring properties, increased landscaping enhances the project and reduces any negative impacts, site layout and design enhances the project and reduces any negative impacts, the massing and building scale is appropriate for the location, the proposed height increase is appropriate for the area, and the increase in height is consistent with any applicable master plan. So we've added those findings or standards so that when you do approve a PD, you can increase that height if so desired. So it gives you a little bit of leeway there. That was really the only other thing that I wanted to talk to you about. And like I say, I'm open to answer any questions about any of the other changes that are being proposed.
Council, anything else you observed as you read through this that you want to either ask questions about or propose changes?
I have a question on the height that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
How often do we have proposals to go over that 40 feet?
Well, and it may be different. I may not be the best one to answer that question because I haven't been here that long, but since I've been here, I've seen at least one that I've worked on. The Bloomington Apartments, you may recall that one.
Oh.
I recall. John may be able to answer that.
Almost all of our apartment complexes that we have in town and residential all ask for the increase in height.
Okay.
There's not very many that don't exceed the 40 feet.
So this makes it so this makes it so it's acceptable. Basically, it doesn't need to be an exception as long as it meets
is
these.
an exception.
It's an
So-
exception as long as it meets these criteria.
Right. What it does is it gives the city council kind of a checklist to go through. You guys would still look at it, review it as part of that PD approval. This just gives you the appropriate findings to approve it.
Okay, so we can say, it doesn't
Correct.
meet this for the new code,
That's
then
correct.
that's why we don't want it, or something like that. Or it looks great, that's why we approve.
But it's
Okay.
typically those apartment complexes where we've gone beyond the height.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I have one question about the beekeeping. So it was permitted, is that correct? And now we're doing it permitted with standards?
I don't think we changed.
On the half acre.
That was more of a clerical. We actually already had the standards in there. A lot of these changes
Okay.
were items like items that we went through and we
It was
found a
just a
few little
mistake.
errors
That's
that
what I
we
was
needed to just change
wondering.
and modify. That's why we're not spending a lot of time on it, because a lot of them were just a few changes that we found that
Okay.
we missed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we call them urban hens now, not chickens. I'm learning all kinds of things.
They sound the same to me.
They're not, they carry little purses.
Oh. That was good, Danielle. Gucci. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Council, with those, I guess what we would do, would we be okay, John and Dan, if the council's inclined to approve this at this point, just with those changes? Does that sound good? Okay, I'd be ready for motion if you are, council.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to Title 10, the zoning regulations as discussed, with them being changed to hogs instead of pigs, and including all of our discussion about the RE 37.5 and the allowance of hogs for raising in accordance with the livestock show, or I guess it's really with
4-H.
4-H, with the youth program.
And it's up to 2,
Up to 2 for each 37.5, RE 37.5.
and that's mirrored with ag, or open space.
Open space
as well.
and ag.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion by Danielle with a second by Michelle. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Greg this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. A lot of interest on that, which is good.
Yeah.
Wes, welcome back. Number
you.
11, I think. Yes.
Okay, item 11 is a request to approve a preliminary plat for an 85-lot residential subdivision called Arbors Phases 11 through 15. Site is located approximately 3,000 East and Segmuller Drive. Let's see the density. So there's two zones within this preliminary plat, an R112, and the density of the units in that are 2.19 dwelling units per acre, and then the RE20, there's a portion of this preliminary plat that has RE20 zoning, and those would be 1.92 dwelling units an acre. Let's see, the general plan shows this is LDR. This is representative as Development Solutions Group. So here, there you go. Here's the location of this Arbors 1115. 3,000 East is right here, and Segmuller Drive right here, and phases 1 through 10 of the Arbors right here. You can see where it has the zoning of RE20 and R112. They are requesting lot size averaging on the RE20 right there, as 4 of the lots are proposing to be less than the 20,000 square feet. The ordinance allows it as long as it's approved. And so they are proposing that right there, 4 of the lots less than the 20,000 feet. So you'd have 4 above and 4 below. The city also is, so right along here, there's a 66-inch storm drain line that comes across here, heads out and goes out to the Fort Pierce. The city's done an analysis of the drainage down here and has determined that 66-inch, you'd think that could carry a lot of water, but it's so flat it can't carry very much. And so the city has looked at 2 options of either installing a new parallel storm drain along here, or doing various detention basins, one being here and 3 more to the east. and to try to collect that runoff and then slow it down so that that 66-inch line can carry the water, and do that in lieu of putting in a parallel storm drain pipe. So on this one right here at, let me see, right here at 3,000 in Segmiller, the city is working with the developer to purchase, it's about 1.37 acres right there to construct a detention basin to collect the runoff from this development and developments to the south that are within this drainage basin, capture it, and then release it at a slower rate into that 66-inch line. So we're working with the developer right now, getting an appraisal and working with them to purchase that property right there as part of this subdivision. They will be required, Segmiller Drive is just a chip-sealed road. It's just been that way forever. So they wouldn't be, they'd be able to remove all of that. They would be required to remove all of that and put in a new paved road with road base that meets city standards. So even though you see existing pavement out there, it's just chip seal. So they'll be required to remove that and construct a new road.
I remember when it wasn't chip sealed.
Yeah.
Very dusty route to take my daughter to George Washington Academy.
And I think it was the dust is the reason they finally did
That's
put
correct.
some chip seal down on it.
Yep.
So that's really that subdivision.
Okay, questions, council? I'm glad to see us thinking about drainage.
Yeah. And you'll see more into the east. Like I said, 3 more that'll come as those properties develop over to the east.
Any questions or comments, council? This is a preliminary plat. It's already zoned.
Right.
We're just talking preliminary plat. This is kind of near city manager's neighborhood, I think. Yeah.
Greg, are you going to say something, or you just think?
No, I can make a motion
Okay.
on this one.
Go for it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Arbors phases 11 through 15, an 85-lot residential subdivision located on the southwest corner of intersection of 3000 East and Segmiller Drive.
Second.
Motion by Greg with a second by Brian. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. I don't have any appointments to boards or commission today. Any reports that we need to do? I'd encourage us to be quick if we're going to, because we're going to try to, those of us that want to.
I don't have anything.
No? Anything, gentlemen? I don't either. Then, Adam, anything else you or Sean have? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Brian. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.